Good morning, good morning, good morning. Here I am back with another video. I'm going to try to make this video as quickly as possible. Now remember, I did say try. Okay, so let's just take a quick moment to get ourselves prepared. Of course, you know you guys need your spiral notebook. You need your favorite writing utensil. That may be a pen, pencil. Hey, it can even be a Crayola crayon. As long as you get this work done and you have fun doing it, I am okay with that. Alrighty. So go ahead and pause the video, go get everything that you need, and then come back and press play, and I'll be here. Alrighty, now that you've returned, here we go. Let's check out our PBO. Students will be able to describe the structure and major events in order to analyze how the author's choices concerning how to structure a text or the events within it. It is referring to the text. We're talking about parallel plots. That could be one of the ways that the text is structured, and manipulate time. They gave you some examples. We're talking about pacing, flashbacks, even flash forwards. How does these things create such effects such as mystery, tension, or surprise? Okay, so I'm going to do a little bit of breaking down or unpacking this PBO. It is very, very wordy. So if we were to eat the meat and spit out the bones, here's what we're going to do. We're going to focus on how the author creates effects such as mystery, tension, and surprise. Once we are able to identify those elements, then we will ask ourselves, how did the author do this? How did the structure of the text, the passage, the sentence help us to, one, identify mystery, tension, surprise, or even suspense? And how did this structure create these elements? And how did these elements such as mystery, tension, surprise, and suspense, how did it affect the overall story? How did it affect the character? How did it affect the tone, the mood? Yes, we're still talking about that, because remember, I told you guys that all of these standards will always work together. Even though we teach them in isolation, they all work hand in hand. Okay? Alrighty. Okay, so here's what you need to know. You definitely need to know what the words mean at the bottom. When we're talking about structure, we're talking about the arrangement of the text, or the arrangement of certain parts of the text. One of the words that you heard me say last week was when I was talking about format. So that's basically what we're talking about. We're talking about structure or the format of the text. Again, we're talking about decisions that the author made. When we're talking about manipulate, we're talking about to control or influence. And when we're talking about mystery, we're talking about anything that is kept a secret, something that is unexplained or unknown. Tension, we're talking about that anxiety or that excitement or that strain. It's a feeling that when you're reading it. When we're talking about surprise, again, we're talking about something that is happening without warning all of a sudden. We're talking about things that just creates a feeling of anticipation within us. Alrighty. Okay, so I want you guys to take a moment to compare and contrast these two buildings, because we're looking for structure, right? If we're looking at their structure, I want you to tell me what you noticed about them. What do they have in common? What do they not have in common? I want you to go ahead and make sure you write that down somewhere in your notes, okay? Or no, don't write it down. I'm sorry. Just be ready to discuss this in class. Ready? All right. So again, when we're talking about structure, we're talking about the arrangement, the place, the order of parts and elements. For the sake of our class, we're talking about the order and the placement of the text. And that includes the words. That includes syntax, which is the order of the sentence. That includes the paragraph, the order, and the placement of the paragraph within the text. We're talking about sections. We're talking about the whole entire text. Okay? Alrighty. Here are 6 of the basic text structures: chronological, cause and effect, compare, contrast, descriptions, problem, solution, and sequential order. When we're thinking about sequential and chronological, they both have to do, they're kind of similar with towards each other. Here's what I want you to write down and to remember. When we are talking about chronological, we have the prefix chrono. Chrono deals with time. So chronological is dealing with the time. When we are talking about sequential, we are talking about steps. We're talking about process, okay? Make sure you know the difference between those two. Chronological, chrono, dealing with time. Sequential is dealing with steps, and process. For example, when you guys read over a recipe, is it in chronological order or sequential order? It is in chronological. It is not in chronological order. It is in sequential order. It is giving you the steps. First step, you do this. Second step, you do that, and so forth. Chronological, we're talking about time. Time such as years and actual time. 12 o'clock, 12:10, 12:15, and so forth. Okay? Alrighty. Okay, so again, here are our keywords to remember: mystery, tension, surprise, and suspense. Mystery, tension, surprise, and suspense. Again, the purpose of our text is to be able to understand how the author structures a text to create these elements. Okay, alrighty. So, how are we going to determine this text structure and how it impacts the meaning? So here's what I did. I flipped this a little bit. I'm going to give you an example of the things that we will use in class so that we are able to identify mysteries, surprise, and tension. Okay, so the first thing you're going to do is always what? Read that text, and you're going to annotate. As you're annotating, you're going to pull out sentences, phrases, words, and even maybe a section that gives you as you're reading, that gives you a hint to surprise, mystery, and tension. Now, going back to what we said that mystery is anything that is unexplained, right? Surprise is a startling event. It's something that you were not aware of. Suspense is this feeling of anticipation, and tension, it is that strain that you have, that strained feeling. Okay, so as you're reading, you're going to be able to identify this. You're going to ask yourself, wait a minute, is a secret here? Oh, wait, hold up. I was not expecting this. This is a plot twist. A plot twist. Oh, tension. Ooh, wait a minute. I'm feeling a little bit, strained. I'm feeling some type of way. So you're going to be able to identify these things as you're reading. We're looking again at the words and how the words are used. So then you're going to ask yourself, well, what is the tone and the mood of that text? And then after we do that, we're going to go back and talk about the effects of the structure. For example, let's say that we are reading a story and the author is describing an accident, right? And that accident is creating a feeling of tension within you. Then we know that it is through the author's description of the events. And that's a structure. You can have a structure, description. It is through this format, this structure of description, his usage of description, it created that feeling within us, that effect within us. So when you guys are reading your text or you're preparing for your test, this is an example of how you may be questioned. Okay, so I want you to pause right here. I've already highlighted something that we want you to focus on. We want you to focus on the development. Anytime you see the word develop, we're asking you how something is built. So I want you to pause. I want you to take a moment. I want you to read the excerpt, and then I want you to try to answer it. So you're going to ask yourself, like, what is the author doing, right? How is he building this particular excerpt? All right. And then come right back with your answer choice. Okay, so if you chose A, you are correct. Well, how do we know that the author is contrasting the narrator's familiarity with the settings? With his feelings, and something is wrong. Again, we got to look at the key words. We see words like wonder, unfamiliar. We see stirring up. While I hesitated not to acknowledge how familiar. So again, he is contrasting, okay? We do not see an element of a flashback. If you do not know what a flashback is, I'm going to tell you. Flashback is when you are referring back to an event that happened in your past, or the author's past, or the character's past. Flash forward is when the author is talking about or giving you a glimpse of things that has not happened. Forward, right? Future. Back, past. Okay. Was there a contrasting of strange objects in the house? Nah. Did we establish the narrator's increasing conflict with the family doctor? You do not see that in this passage. Remember, I told you before that you use your passage, your excerpt, what is before you, to help you to choose the correct answer, okay? All right, then I'm going to quickly go through this. I'm not going to read it. I'm just going to go through it to have you focus on a few things. Again, when we're talking about chronological, I told you chronological is dealing with time, right? Chrono. We're talking about time. We're talking about the numerical time. 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. We're talking about months. We're talking about years. We're talking about days. Okay? All righty. We will see words like years or later or after, today, things of that nature to help us to identify that it is chronological. When we see sequential, we will see things first, second, third, and so forth. All righty. Cause and effect. Cause and effect has to do with the reasons and the result. Cause is the why something happened. Effect is the result. The effect is the result. All righty. So when an author does this, he wants to explain how one event affects or creates another event. Okay. All right. So if you were to read this, it asks you, how does the structure of this passage shows the author loves snow days? Again, we're looking at the cause and effect, because this happened, that happened, okay? Or because this happened, this is the result of that, okay? And again, we see the little baby. All of us like snow days, okay? All right, so when we are comparing and contrasting, we're looking to see how they are similar and how they are different. We're looking at this in the context of objects, ideas, actions, processes, beliefs, and so forth. Author uses this structure when they want to show us how things are alike, how things are different, okay? There are words such as both, but, while, and there are other words as well. I will have a handout for you to show you the various keywords to let us know cause and effect, compare and contrast, and so forth. Again, we're talking about descriptions. We're talking about these sensory details, okay? For example, we see grueling, plastered, wet, sticky, okay? And the purpose of this, excuse me, the purpose of the description is to give us that information. I'm sorry, you guys. I don't know if you can hear my baby in the background. But we're going to keep it moving, okay? So the purpose of the description, the author wants to list features. He wants to give you examples. He wants to give you some information such as characteristics. And the author will tap into the five senses. Ms. Bond, what do you mean you say five senses? They're on your face. We're talking about sight. We're talking about smell. We're talking about taste. We're talking about hearing, right? We're talking about feeling. All righty. Now, why is this important? This is important because it helps us to understand. First of all, we want to pass tests. Let's start right there. We want to pass tests, but it is important because it helps us to fully understand and make connections as to how one thing influence or affect another. All right, I know I was kind of speed talking. Again, this is why I record the video so you guys can pause, rewind, and if you have to start all the way over. If you have any questions, please don't forget to have those ready for me when we come to class. All righty, guys, see you later.